If it becomes necessary for that to be focused on the containment of Iran, so be it. And most of the decision on that has to do with how the Iranians play it. But it's also another argument for why the United States should be trying actively on the kinds of ideas I'm talking about here today in terms of a security structure which we don't have to be every day the manager. You know, we went from 1979 onward, in particular after 1991 with the Desert Storm, with a policy that was built on the so-called dual containment. That was always a policy that was time limited and condition limited. It's more or less run its course. The question is, what do we try to do for the future that is not just based upon that kind of approach, which will serve our interests before anybody else in the future, but that clearly involves in Iraq, which finally, after how many hundred years, finds a way for Sunnis and Shias to live effectively within the same country. You had for 300 years the idea of a majority Shia being run by minority Sunnis, first by the Ottomans, then by the British, then by Saddam, and the whimsical people say we were the first ones who were chucklehead enough to come and blow it apart and have to try something else. Well, we're going to have to. There has to be something else. There has to be something where minority Sunnis, majority Shia, and Kurds can manage to live successfully together in the same country. And that has hardly begun. Hardly begun.
All right, we've got a question here from somebody from Bloomberg News in the overflow room. The GAO just issued a report questioning how clearly the Defense and State Department's arms sales to the Persian Gulf contribute to U.S. foreign policy and national security. How well analyzed and coordinated do you think those sales are, and what are the implications when the Gulf security dialogue hasn't worked?
I don't know for a fact the extent to which the State Department, the Defense Department, and the White House work together on security. My experience in government leads me to wonder about actually how extensive it was, but I don't want to get in the position of second-guessing something like that. Clearly, this is one of the 7 issues or 7 areas that need to be coordinated closely together as part of a single holistic policy. Take another example. If we are concerned deeply about the future of Pakistan, likely strategically more important to us than Afghanistan. We don't really have any strategic interest in Afghanistan except negatively. How do you keep Al-Qaeda from operating there? How do you keep some hostile country from dominating it? How do you keep it from being a source of instability or a place from which terrorism is protected? We don't have any more strategic interest in Afghanistan than we ever did. We do in Pakistan, very much in Pakistan. But how can you square that with an almost open-ended military supply relationship with India when Pakistan continues to see its #1 security concern regarding India, in which we suddenly find ourselves, in part because of that, having to take more seriously than we have ever before the issue of Kashmir. You can't do these things in separate boxes. You can't do it with separate envoys, each with his or her individual mandate. You can't do it also with a split between EUCOM, the European Command, and CENTCOM, where the Supreme Allied Commander Europe, who is also the head of the European Command, is the commander of ISAF forces. And yet CENTCOM is not only the commander in Iraq, but also has control of the bulk of U.S. forces in Afghanistan itself. These things don't compute. Incidentally, when there was the problem with the Turks and the Kurds, one reason General Ralston, who was sent out there, was not able to be effective on that is because Turkey belongs to EUCOM and Iraq belonged to CENTCOM, And when he tried to get CENTCOM to do something about the Kurds, they said, wait a second, that's not my problem. We're worried more about the rest of Iraq. Turkey, that's your problem. Well, this is why we need to organize ourselves better across the government to deal with all of these issues together and to do it rapidly because blood, treasure, and opportunity costs are involved. And this starts at the level of the president to get this done right.